Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. I've got two statistics for you today that you are not going to believe. You've never heard this information before, and believe it or not, it's extremely important and easily understood because it's at the top of your website. Very exciting. Can't wait to share it, but there's other information in this show that you would never hear anywhere else, and you're going to hear some of it and see some of it. Some of it is visual at the front end of the show. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Thanks for joining me here on WowBiz Nebraska, and I'm going to lead off, as I've mentioned to you before, the two statistics. I uncovered these accidentally. I could not believe them, and the fact that they are related so clearly, and so many people are going to be impacted by what I'm going to share with you right now. Number one, 88% of all business owners and executives sheepishly admit that the top of their website, when somebody comes to your site, looks at the homepage, at the top of the website, the information that is there is all about them. It's all about them. Great product, 5 stars, only here, buy our stuff, we're really great. Us, right? 88% say, yeah, Lynn, that's probably true. 59% of all viewers of websites, all the people that go to a website, a business site, leave in 8 seconds. 59% of them leave in 8 seconds because they're not clear that this company can solve their problem. In fact, there's no mention at all anywhere on the homepage that their problem is even there or understood or acknowledged or they can fix it or they can't fix it or whatever. There's no mention of their problem at all. Now think about this. 8 seconds. Do you want somebody to go to your website and leave in 8 seconds? Huh? Somebody who has a problem. They're looking for a solution, right? Something's not working. Our company isn't doing right. We're not doing this. We need help with that. Let's check out these guys. I met a guy and I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to his website. And, he's pretty sharp. I'm going to check him out. Yeah, we're great. They're really great. Blah, blah, blah. I'm looking. Da, 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 da. I don't know. They don't even mention the problem we're having on the homepage. Somebody goes someplace else. Just look somewhere else. This doesn't tell me nothing. Not that little drama that I just shared with you at this moment is happening every day in the world of business that you occupy. Right now, as I'm visiting with you, you should be calling your head of technology or your sales manager or your marketing manager, or maybe just a sales guy, and saying, can I get them on the phone? Yeah. Take a look at our site. I want it changed by tomorrow morning. We're making a huge mistake. We're stubbing our foot. We are losing many, many customers as a result of what I just found out, and I should have known anyway. That's right. That's absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen. So, once again, 88% of a problem, that's a big number, and 59%, that's a pretty big number of people that are going out. I can't find anything that's relevant to us, doesn't solve the problem we have. Look somewhere else. So there we are. I shared something with you just now that you've never heard before, and is extremely important financially, among other things. Okay. Listen, this is the WowBiz Nebraska. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Thank you for tuning in with us. And I want to share you another idea, probably an idea that you have never heard before. And it's especially relevant, by the way, if you are a business-to-business company. you sell your products or services to some other company, not to the consumer. So this is B2B. And it's a trend, and I just noticed it in a trade magazine a few years ago. It was a big essay about this, and the headline, if I can recall correctly, is B2B companies don't realize the importance of graphics, design, okay? They don't realize it. They just kind of keep kicking out the same products. They look a little mundane. They're not easily differentiated, and it puts a big pressure on the customer for kind of trying to like figure out, and they're not adept at attracting positive attention. Well, anyway, so graphics are a big deal. But I've noticed that there's a sales cycle, and we all know what that means. You start at the beginning, hi, how you doing? And then you kind of try to warm up to them and ask some questions, figure out what it is, the problem. Then they say yes, or we're very excited or something about working with you. And then things start to really flow. Man, you got to call people. Let's go out for dinner, honey. I think we got them, da-da-da-da-da. Things start to really go well, right? And then at the very end, that's kind of a, it's kind of like looking back at a successful sales campaign, I guess. And as you look at it and you go, gee, all this, everything just came together. You ever heard that phrase? Everything just came together. There's no boundaries or borders or separations. It just kind of came together. So I'm going to show you I'm going to give you abstract expressionism here, okay? A new image, very exciting. Here we start right here. All right, here we go. So here's a gentleman. This is your prospect, and he's got his hand up. You can't see him entirely. That's part of the problem. When you're a salesperson, you don't really understand the person that you're in front of. You don't know what they really like or don't like. They're a little defensive. And there's all these gaps and various areas in their pictures where it kind of symbolizes the fact that there's some pieces missing. You don't really get this guy completely, although, you're going to keep on moving forward. So there's abstract expressionism as it relates to the first phase of sales development, sales journeying. All right, now we move forward here. Yes, we move forward. And we've now learned, we ask questions. What do you like? What are the problems you're having? What are the issues? And the answers to all these things are kind of overlapping, as you might know. And here you can see this abstract expressionistic image. Things are overlapping and they're diluting the colors that are next to them and so on. The imagery is all over the place and it's kind of a big splash. And that's what's going on in your head if you're a salesperson, the marketing director, business development guy, maybe the CEO. Let's pull everything together, make sure we can get this client. They're showing some interest, and let's get it all together right now. And so everything is overlapping, and you're hoping that you don't screw things up because it's a little confusing, but it also is really kind of a pretty process. Yeah. So there we go with that particular image. Now, finally, the guy in that particular case said, we're going to go ahead with you guys. We like you guys. You seem to really hustle. You care about our input on things. So we're going to go ahead and give you the first order. You'll have the check by next week. Thanks so much. We're eager to move forward with you as our primary vendor. Now, when they say that to you, again, symbolically, metaphorically, this image right here, everything is flowing, baby. You see that? There's movement, there's kinetic, it's going this way, it's going that way, but it's pretty, it all is coming together, it's overlapping, but it's not a chaotic thing anymore. It seems like the solution is obvious. There's a pattern, there's a trend, and you are the person that's choreographing this beautiful imagery, which is known as getting a sales customer and booking the business. Now, the fourth step, everybody knows this step. Here you see an image where all these vague kind of images, various light, dark, but there's no clarity, no borders. Nothing is separated from anything else. And that's when you have a really successful marketing campaign and your business bops up and everybody's excited about the future. That's what this looks like. That's what this image looks like. This image symbolizes all that happiness and all that enthusiasm, and everything is cool. It just kind of goes over here and then over there, Everything feels right, and it's a beautiful, beautiful image going forward with this new client. That's right. So here we have those 4 unusual, expressionistic images that kind of portray from beginning to end what marketing and advertising and sales development really does look like. Isn't that something? That's incredible. It really is. Now, we want to move on here quickly before we go to our promotional sponsors. And by the way, the Nebraska Roundtable organization, Nebraska Roundtable, they're our sponsor here today for this particular episode of WowBiz Nebraska. But before I go any further here, I'm going to dig into something that I think you'll relate to. Now, this goes past some of the superficial comments that you'll hear now and then on our show. I'm going to read something to you of a very interesting man and what he does. And by the way, he's a choreographer, he's an actor, he's a director, and he's a dancer. And he's 72 years old. His name is Bill Jones. So he's a very creative, energetic guy, and he's being interviewed. And I just want to emphasize to you again today, all of this applies to business as well, even though you might be thinking right now, nah, it doesn't have anything to do with us, but it does, and I'll make sure that you understand. Here we go. He's kind of responding to an interviewer's questions, and he says, I'm trying to reaffirm myself that what I have left in me, notice that phrase, what I have left in me is worth saying. Doubt is always with us, and it burns like fire. But I refuse to give up the mantle of being a creative artist. Now, we're going to go forward right now because I consider every one of you business people and all the people you serve in your own way as a creative artist. He says, I've got to do something. You might say, well, why don't you just go love a child? Or why don't you go to work in a soup kitchen down the street? He says, because I'm a self-involved son of a gun. That's what he says. Procrastination says, I don't dare. But can you live with yourself if you don't? Right? This is what so many business people I know are asking themselves. So how do you start? 3 words: terror, guilt, and fear. Now I'm going to tell you what, this guy says terror, guilt, and fear. He's being incredibly honest and transparent about where he's at in his life and his career and what to do next and where to go forward. I know many, many business people that would say the same thing privately. Terror, guilt, and fear are driving them forward, pulling them out of bed every day, trying to figure out what am I doing with my job, my career, my company, and so on. All negatives to this generation of young people who don't ever want to be uncomfortable. But the generation that formed me and my own generation had that feeling, listen closely now, had that feeling that you're being pushed against and you've got to somehow push back because you're not like them. You got to push back because you're not like them. As Martha Graham, she was a great dancer years ago, said to Agnes DeMille, she said, there is only a divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others. Let me just read that again. There is a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others. I've got to believe that about myself, and the evidence is what I dare to do. He ends this whole thing after being so introspective and so reflective and talking so authentically about who he is and what he's struggling with. But in the end, he says, it's about what I dare to do. Dare to do, action, right? Behavior. All that comes after thinking and then feelings and emotions and then all of a sudden action, right? And change. So anyway, this guy is very, very sharp. His name is Bill Jones, 72 choreographer. Very, very interesting. I think it applies to a lot of business people here in the Nebraska area. So thanks for watching us here today. This has been a great show so far, hasn't it? New information, insight, and I got more coming, believe me. But this show is brought to you, as I mentioned earlier, the sponsor of this particular episode is the Nebraska Roundtable. I'm talking about the Nebraska, N-E-W, not regular Nebraska, N-E-W, Nebraska, the Nebraska Roundtable. Now, I've been a part of these kinds of things before. Nebraska Roundtable is similar in that you get business owners, or maybe sales managers, but usually business owners, and they talk openly and candidly about what's going on with their business, the frustrations they have about their business that kind of are chronic, they keep going on and on. And then in some cases, everybody in the room, by the way, there is lunch served. It's a half-day event once a month for a half a day. If you're a member of the roundtable, you're sitting in a private room, very confidential. Nobody goes out and talks about anything that's mentioned in that room. And of course, like I said before, they have lunch and snacks and so on and so forth. But the key idea is, how can I and all these other people in the room, how can we help you, Lynn? How can we help you get through this problem or this barrier, or what can I tell you? How can I be of value to you? And that happens every month. Various people, have experiences or insights or something, and they're worth sharing with either everybody else or in maybe one particular person. Sometimes there'll be some kind of a case study or an unusual project or program, and say, look, there's this going on. I want you to break up into small groups and so on, and you have to collaborate with each other and come up with some cool ideas that would maybe solve this problem, whatever it is. You see what I'm getting at. So there's group problem solving and collaboration as well. And what's really important is that you're talking to people, roughly speaking, at your level, right? These are peers now, colleagues, people that have experience kind of like your experience. So you're not talking to people that just got into business out of college. You're not talking to people that are aged out, retired, and gone. But you're talking to people that are kind of in your realm, maybe the same generation and so on. Now, this is very exciting. I myself, as I said, have been part of a group like this. It was very helpful to me. And I'll tell you one quick little exercise. And there's always exercises. The facilitator has to be prepared, and let everybody know what we're doing here. And here are the rules to the game. Take off your phone and put the phone away. We're not going to be doing any phone work here while we're talking together, that kind of thing. Well, anyway, in this particular case, a person said, I want you to draw, here's a big picture, giant, big piece of paper. Draw a picture of you. Here's the markers and all the colors, and so do whatever you want to do. Go all around the room. Everybody gets a big giant piece of paper, and you've got 15 minutes to draw you. Now you can be, how do I say, figurative. You can try to be realistic. You can make little pencil sketches. Whatever you want to do, that's you. That's you. So I was a part of this group, as I mentioned to you before, and everybody, it was so interesting. Everybody created a picture of themselves using the same approach, and they all had kind of stick figures, basically, what you saw, and they were all insecure, a little bit self-conscious about drawing something that was supposed to be them, and they didn't think they were artists, so it wasn't that good, but here I am, But everybody did the same thing except for me. And it was a very interesting moment. And the facilitator at that particular time kind of knew in advance, and she said, Lynn, she says, I'd like you to do your thing. Go ahead and show how you would represent yourself to all these other people in the room, because we went around, we talked to everybody, and that's you, and you look good, and all that. So I stepped up to a whiteboard, and I got a marker here, and for some reason I just could do it. I didn't have to think at all about it. I don't know. And so I drew a profile, kind of a side of my head, just a little cartoon type figure. But then I had all these lines kind of coming out of the head or the brain or whatever, and they're just shooting across the whole entire whiteboard, right? And some of them were on top of each other. They were like, running over each other and so on. Whew. Yeah, that's kind of what it was. And everybody's like, what in the world, And finally the facilitator said, okay. She said, tell me what we're looking at here. What are we seeing right here? And I said, well, this is activity with the right hemisphere of my brain. This is the right hemisphere of my brain communicating with consciousness. That's what I say, with consciousness, a broader realm of energy. And all these ideas are overlapping, and that they're all ideas. All these lines are lines of thought, lines of possibility, lines of interest. And some of them, they come together and they twist all up. But at the end, there's all these cool business opportunities. And the room was just dead quiet. They could not believe this particular representational image. So that was a fascinating experience for me, and I think pretty much for everybody else in the room, that we have to remember more than just the external part of us, right? There's a part inside of us that's extremely complicated and important and all that. And business people in particular need to be aware of that and be reminded of that and so on. Okay, anyway, so that's exciting. You should contact Nebraska Roundtable. It's a heck of a good time, and you'll be the better for it. Okay, well, thanks so much right here for joining us here in WowBiz Nebraska. Again, brought to you by the Nebraska Roundtable. And we're very excited to be here. And I'm going to talk to you today about two things. I'm going to be very quick on one thing, and then I'm going to linger on another thing that is unbelievable and exciting and eager to share with you. And I probably should start with that first, but I'm going to just mention very briefly. People are struggling. And I say people. We'll talk about companies in general are struggling with their workforce. I think we all know that Nebraska has a problem with workforce. There are far more jobs available than there are people in Nebraska that are actively working. All right, just got to get that in your head exactly what this means. But more importantly, and more, so it's such a bad thing. 95% of these people I just referred to, wherever they work, could be in a factory, could be in an office, I don't know. 95% of them are making plans to leave. They don't really like their job. They don't like their boss. He's a jerk. I don't need to take this crap. I'm leaving. Yeah, that's going on big time. And you know how much it costs to replace that person? Let's say, for instance, that person's making, let's say $40,000 a year. We'll just come up with a number. To replace that person, you got to hire a tenant, advertising, recruiter, spend time talking to different people, get the HR people involved, all that good stuff. $20,000, 50% of their first year salary, you're going to spend trying to replace them. And then another problem is, say for instance, you've chosen somebody, fine, we probably should, go ahead with this person. But the ramp up process, businesses do it so poorly. They're busy and they don't want to put the time into it. And here, just read this and I'll stop by and I'm sure you'll be able to pick up on it. What I call the ramp up process, kind of the training that precedes full-time operation, working wherever you're working and doing what you're doing. So shame on these business owners and their managers and their supervisors and their team leaders. All of them, are all kind of on top of these folks. Do it the same way you did it yesterday, only do it faster. Do it the same way you did it yesterday, only do faster. And no mistakes, right? And so it goes. So the problem, it's easy to blame the employees, but frankly, the responsibility lies with management, maybe even more so. A very interesting, Gallup, by the way, I think most of you know that they published a book called Blind Spot last year. Heck of a book based upon, obviously, a lot of research. And the point there was that everybody's unhappy. Almost everybody is unhappy with their job. They don't like it. They don't do that, the whole thing. Right. What a sad thing, right? What a sad thing. Life is short and people are struggling, trying to get a job. And now, of course, because there's so much movement around, is that people are not, they're negotiating aggressively for raises and making more money and so on. And yet they're not committed to the culture. And by the way, there is no culture in many of these companies. They really don't stand for anything. God forbid that they have a higher purpose. A higher purpose. Stand for something more than just getting the product out and in the back of the truck by the end of the work shift today. So one program that's out there, kind of a system that weaves together a lot of these ideas and provides coaching and counseling, is Future Force. Future Force, I think it's one word. That's one of many ways that organizations in Nebraska can say, hey, we got to do a better job pulling these people in, keeping them, making people happy around here. Maybe Future Force can help us, or maybe some other system or concept can be of value. All right, very, very interesting. Now, I don't have time today. I'm going to get back to you the next time the show comes on, and we're going to talk in great depth about conventional marketing, what people normally do, step by step, how they think about it, the practical, mundane, common stuff, and then the internal stuff with each step. As you meet somebody, you're offering them something and so on and so forth. Step by step, there's an internal process that's so, so important, and it requires that you know yourself. You got to know who you are and how you're responding to the person responding to you. It's a fascinating thing. Don't miss the next show. I can't wait to share it with you. Again, my name is Lynn Hinderaker. This is WowBiz Nebraska. It's a heck of a show, and I'm proud of the fact that we're sharing information all the time that's fresh, it's exciting, it's at the cutting edge. In some cases, it's information that nobody has ever spoken about. In some cases, with the thing I just mentioned, that was created 20 years ago. So lots and lots of information here. And again, we thank the Nebraska Roundtable people for sponsoring our show, WowBiz Nebraska. We'll see you next time. Again, I'm Lynn Hinderaker. Thank you. Bye-bye.